Bonsoir, dear friends, and welcome to JCB Live. We're very excited. This is the end of October. We're days away from this wonderful Halloween moment we're going to be living. And we have an amazing man tonight for all of you to enjoy. He's an incredible wine critic, a fabulous wine writer. He's a passionate musician, and he knows education, not only just on wine, but at large. He's been judging so many competitions over the years, and he has his own wine reviews online and wine spirits online. So you're going to learn a great deal, and he's going to give us a lot of different updates about what he's been tasting and the trends in the wine world. So, dear friends, I'm delighted to bring you Rich Cook. Woo! Woo! Woo!
Right.
Rich, bonjour.
Bonjour, bonjour.
Comment ça va?
Here. Great nose.
Thank you. Well, as we have you as a professional, phenomenal wine writer and reviewer and competition manager and all that, what's your take on this wine?
I love the freshness of it. It's got a great apple pear kind of a vibe on the nose, a little bit of a nutty character, nice fresh bubbles, not overdone. It's got a nice creamy mid palate, and then it crisps up in the finish. Nice lingering flavors. Very nicely done.
Thank you. So, dear friends, this is the famous JCB 21 that we're tasting with Rich, kind of the benchmark of what we always do as a Crémant de Bourgogne, Chardonnay, Pinot, Burgundy. So now, Rich, how did you fall in love with wine? Let's start from the beginning, because this is pretty amazing.
From the way back. Well, when I got married as a young man of 21 years old, I married a beautiful woman who's a little bit older than me, who had been out in the wine world already doing some tasting. And I was a jazz trumpet player working as a grading contractor's accountant at the time. Also had come through working from my high school days in a flower shop, from delivering things up to, doing people's weddings and things. So the creative aspect has always been there. But we took a 2-week honeymoon when we got married in 1984 and drove around California. And of course, we stopped at a few tasting rooms. Back then, there were a lot fewer than there are now, but I got interested right away. The place that got me interested first off was a visit to Corbel wine cellars out on
Bubbles again.
Yeah, Bubbles. That's it. And just the story that they told about, coming from Europe and starting out in the lumber business and finding out that there was a better way to make a living and starting to plant grapes and get into that, and just all the nuance and everything that went into it got me interested right off. Then going from there, I was lucky enough to have a high school friend whose mother was a volunteer for what was then the San Diego National Wine Competition. And she saw, a young buck, early 20s, and said, you should come and volunteer, for this, thinking that here's a guy who can move a lot of cases of wine around because he's still got a strong back. So I got involved in that as a volunteer in the mid 80s and kind of stuck with that. And eventually worked my way into directing now 6 commercial wine competitions, as well as a homemade wine competition at San Diego County Fair. And have just, when doors open with opportunities to do things, I've just been one to say, yes, let's see what we can make out of it.
That's amazing. So literally from a trip, discovering Bubbles to then, doing your wine competition at 25 years old. And here we are a few years later, you made it your life. So how do you recommend to people to convert a passion into a full-time job?
That's a really good question. I seem to have a way of doing that, taking things that most people would consider to be hobbies and saying, oh, well, let's make a job out of it. And a lot of people would say, well, that takes the fun out of it. Well, not necessarily. Today I have the pleasure of when people say, "So what do you do?" I say, "I get free wine in the mail." So I win. I get samples coming my way to taste all the time. And if I taste something that I like, I write something about it. And if it's not my cup of tea necessarily, no harm, no foul. I don't write anything negative about wines. There's plenty of that available if people want to go looking for it. I'd rather stay on the positive side and keep the passion aspect of it working. There's not enough time to spend on things that you're dispassionate about, in my view.
So how does it work, the world of wine competition? Because a lot of the people with us today are from the trade, but some not from the trade of wine. People are wondering, it's another award. Do you buy the awards? Do you really get the awards? Do you get the points? Maybe, if you don't mind, Rich, explain us the process, because you run 6 of them, wine and spirit. So you're on both sides of the alcoholic beverage world.
Sure. First of all, I think wine competitions are really a great place where both sides, the consumer and the producer, can benefit from what's going on. Wineries do pay an entry fee to put wines into a judging, but then judgings are done completely blind. Judges don't know, other than a variety, what they're tasting. They don't get to see vintages or brands or prices or anything like that.
Everything is blind.
Right. So they're judging wine specifically on its merits, what's in the glass in front of them, and they decide if it's worthy of a medal or not. In the competitions that I work with, we start at the silver medal level. Back when I started tasting wine, I would say I'd probably open 100 bottles, and 50 of them would be things that I wasn't going to be enthusiastic about. Today, that number is probably more like 3 or 4. We've learned so much over the past 35 to 40 years about how to produce good quality wine that you just don't see wines that are faulted in the commercial realm that much anymore. So we don't give out bronze medals. Wineries don't promote winning a bronze medal anyway, so there's no point in spending their time or effort on that. We start at a silver award and then go on up from there to gold or platinum award. And we give scores for gold medals and above. We start those at 90 points. Golds are typically something you would score 90 to 93 points. And then our platinum award is really for the cream of the crop, where we score 94 points or above. And sorry, go ahead.
No, very good. I was saying that's great.
And then, we do different groups of judges at the different competitions that we do. Under the Wine Cellar Productions umbrella, we have 4 events. The San Diego International Wine and Spirits Competition, where we have mixed panels of judges, people from all facets of the industry. And then we have some more specialized judging pools for our other competitions. The Sommelier Challenge was just held in September, and all of the judges are professional sommeliers. They may work in a restaurant, or they may be a buyer for a large restaurant group, but they've got the certification, and that gives a specific take on wine. Sommeliers are looking for particular things when they taste wines or spirits. We have another competition, the Critics Challenge, where all of the judges are writers. So they get a really wide spectrum view of the world of wine, because we get the chance as writers to taste things from all over the world. Mm-hmm. So that's another kind of a view. Then we have the Winemaker Challenge, which is probably the hardest judging, because winemakers have a job, and their job is to find what's wrong in the winemaking process and take care of it, make that right. So when you're having one of those judgings go on, it's interesting. Winemakers would much rather spend time discussing a wine that they don't like and what the problems are with it than a wine that they think, wow, this is really good. They'll just say, wow, that's really good. I wish I had made that.
Very cool process. So maybe, Rich, what would be fun is we have a great wine to taste, which I know you have in your hands, and you walk us through the process of how you personally taste to show us your process, because for all the wine lovers out there, there's many ways to analyze a wine. So I would love if you would be so kind to demonstrate your thinking process as you analyze the wine we're going to be having. And as you know, this is this great Mendocino Chardonnay, that organic wine that we have. So if you would be, if you could walk us through your thinking, would be awesome.
Sure. So I'll pour a glass, and the first thing I'll do is, without agitating the glass at all, just bring it to my nose. Inhale, look for anything that might be wrong. Mostly look for things that are right. What's the fruit character? Is there a floral character? Do I get winemaking character? Barrel spice or toast, those kinds of things.
And explain why, Rich, you didn't swirl the glass, which I'm delighted you're not doing as a reflex, you're doing as a second stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like to see the difference between just what's sitting in the glass. This wine's been sitting for a few minutes in the glass and starting to aromatize, but things are much softer and you're getting more of the fruit floral character before that agitation, which brings out more of the alcohol character, more of the barrel character, those kinds of things. So I like to go in first without the agitation, without aerating the wine too much, to just see what's there. And if there are any hints of TCA, anything like that, they tend to present to me really clearly that way before I start to mix in and release some of the other characteristics. Then kind of a unique thing for me. I don't know why I ever started doing this, but rather than doing a heavy swirl, it might have something to do with, wearing a lighter colored shirt and wanting to keep it the same color. I just take the glass and tip it into my hand like this and roll the wine around the bowl so that it gives a thin layer of the liquid all the way around the glass. So that super thin layer, it really isn't accomplishing anything different than that swirl, other than it really lets me take a look at how the wine runs down the glass, and it really pops all the esters out of the wine through that thin layer really quickly. So I go back in, now I get a little more of an oak character to it. This has a nice nutty character along with some green apple, some pear. It's not too much oak spice hitting me in the nose right away. Just nice, clean, layered aromas there. And then I'll go in and take a sip.
Oh, so you don't swallow, Rich. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Typically, if I sit down to taste through a set of wines, I'll open 20 or 25 wines, just kind of plow through some things. And if I didn't do that when I was tasting for notes, pretty soon I'd be dead.
How many wines do you typically taste in a competition?
Oh, in competitions, judging panels, at our competitions, we like to keep the numbers fairly low. I've judged at some competitions where I've judged over 100 wines in a 3-hour session. We like to keep it closer to 60 to 70 in that zone to try to give people more chance to discuss what they've got in front of them. If you get 3 people in one wine together, there's always going to be a little room for convincing someone about what a score should be. So we like to give an opportunity for that to happen. But even that amount, that's a lot of wine. That's, if you do 30 wines in an hour, that's 2 minutes of wine to get through.
That's right.
If you were swallowing every sip that you took at the end of 30 minutes, you'd be, your notes might be a little suspect. Let's put it that way.
And do you take notes or you just end up with a ranking?
when I'm tasting for publishing reviews, of course, I take notes. At some of our competitions, the Critics Challenge in particular, we ask the judges if they're going to get something, a gold medal or better, that they do write us just a quick little 1 or 2 line tasting note on that particular wine. So there's a little something extra for the winery to be able to use in their marketing materials if they so desire, and for the public to be able to go to our results on our website and say, oh, well, here's not just a 93-point score. Here's a little information about what's in that glass that will maybe tip me into buying it for a particular meal or use that I have for it.
Very, very interesting. And how important fundamentally do you think those competitions are for the consumer?
I think it's really an interesting take on wines because you're getting generally some consensus about what's going on with a particular wine. People might look up my reviews of a wine, and I tell people all the time, if you taste a wine that I recommend and you like it, you can get some of the things that I mentioned in my review. Well, then maybe we have sympathetic palates, I call it. Maybe you'll be interested in trying some other things that I recommend. If you read one of my notes and you taste the wine and you don't see any of the things that I see in the wine, I say, well, you should look at some other notes and see if somebody fits your palate a little bit better, because we're all at a different place in our journey through the world of wine. And if your place is a little bit different, either not as far along or further along than mine, we may not agree. Everybody has different sensitivities. So in the competition environment, when something gets a gold medal, that means 2 or 3 people had to come to consensus on saying, yeah, I think that wine's worthy of, getting 93 points or whatever the score is, so that it's not just one person's opinion, especially in the competitions where our panels might have a winemaker, a marketing person, and a writer, all working together on the same wine. If those 3 people from their different angles in the industry agreeing that something is really worthwhile, I think that carries a lot of weight.
And how do you select people on your panels? Because obviously it's a reflection of who you are, the competition, and a panel has to be of top quality to really know what they're doing and to work well together. So what's your process?
Yeah, another interesting question. It is really important that people are able to work and play nicely together. And we've had occasion in the past, although we're very careful in selecting people beforehand. Generally, we don't have judges come in that I don't either know their wines on the winemaking standpoint, or I've tasted with them personally and know where their palates are and what they're able to see across the spectrum, because somebody needs to be able to appreciate a $15 wine that's made for frequent drinking, as well as they can appreciate a $100 bottle of wine that's meant more for special occasion, kind of consumption. So being able to get across that whole spectrum and appreciate what's happening and be able to tell in a blind situation when they pick up a glass. I pick up this Pinot Noir that we're coming up to next. I think, well, that's right away on the nose. I can tell that's a cut above standard, if not 2 or 3 cuts above standard, where there's a ton going on aromatically. What can I discuss with the other judges that I'm working with, and so that we can come to an agreement. And occasionally you'll have somebody who doesn't like a wine that 2 other judges like. They get an opportunity to revisit that wine, pull each other up or down, and see things that they may have missed as they taste the first time through. And, having a smaller number and allowing time for that to happen helps everything that's worthy really rise to the top.
So you get to actually talk about the wine you taste. You don't just aggregate rankings, and from those
Correct.
rankings, you give an overall grade.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the things that I do when instructing judges is to say to them, you really want to keep a couple of things in mind when you're getting a glass in front of you. First thing is that somebody or some large group of people has gone to great time, effort, expense, sleepless nights, worrying about hailstorms, wind, flooding, fire, whatever it might be, to put this thing in the glass that's in front of you. And you need to make sure that you're respecting that when you taste that wine that comes from anywhere. And then you have to balance it with the idea that, hey, it's a glass of wine, and its first job is to give you pleasure and possibly pair with a meal that's going to just multiply that pleasure. And holding those two things in tension with each other, I think, helps people make sure that they're giving everything its best chance to show well.
I love that. So thank you for clarifying. It's important. And I think it's very important for everybody to know that you're very serious at it. And there's so many great people tasting with you that, as you said, it's a collection of great minds and great palates. So it should be pretty accurate, shouldn't it?
Yeah, one of the fun parts of my job as a director of this, and because of our connection with Wine Review Online, with many of these competitions, wines that different panels decide should get a platinum award, those wines will come to me, where I'll taste the wine and then write a complete tasting note, do a full review of that wine. That appears at Wine Review Online as well as on our competition websites. So I get to see, I get to sort of run a real-time inspection on the panels and say, oh, well, who sent this up here? Maybe I should go have a little chat with them.
I love it. So now you were not busy enough with wine. You decided to be the co-editor of Spirits Review Online. So tell us about this new evolution of your overall spectrum.
Sure. Well, spirits, as you know, is having quite a moment in the marketplace these days. Younger people in particular are interested in the world of cocktails. And COVID, I'm sure, helped push that along. I know a friend of mine and I started doing cocktails over Zoom and torturing each other with our new recipes to come up and say, well, you got to try this and go grab a little bit of this particular vermouth to mix in your martini or whatever it might be. So we've been judging spirits at many of our comps for some time, but we wanted to offer that same opportunity to both producers and consumers to get a little bit extra than just getting, some points and a medal to say, here's some details about the spirit. So we're just in the infancy at Spirits Review Online of trying to get some things up there, having a spirit of the week that's a regular turnover so that people can check in and see what's new in the world, and trying to get out and find some of the real craft producers that are doing something a little bit different than you might see in the mainstream industry. I tasted a fantastic gin last week from Freeland Spirits up in Portland. That's pretty traditional, but it's definitely got a Pacific Northwest spin to it that I think people would really appreciate.
Well, we need to send you our spirits then, the JCB vodkas and gins, grain based.
Absolutely.
As well as our cognacs.
Just what you're up to with those things.
Thank you. So, well, congratulations for all those great things. Now, you mentioned you have the Pinot in your hand served as well.
Yes.
What do you think about this one?
I really love how this has a nice sense of place to it. Santa Lucia Highlands gets what I like to call a damp earth sort of minerality to it that really speaks through this wine. It's got really nice cherry, ripe strawberry fruit, and then goes into a little bit of dark fruit as well. On the release, really nice oak spice. It's not overtaking the fruit. It's really feathered in very nicely with that, just a moderate toast. And then on the palate, I'm going to go ahead and swallow that one. It's so good.
Good. I'm excited. Finally, I was worried you were going to spit this Deloach.
No, very, very solid. Again, those layers that came through on the nose come through on the palate as well. It's got a really nice, soft mid palate, good creamy texture to it, and then a nice bright acid bite on the finish that keeps the spice mixed with the fruit really well. Great plush fruit pushing forward, really long finish. I mean, even talking over the finish, it just keeps pushing flavor. Really, really nicely put together. And it's a pleasure to get to taste something with a little bottle age on it. Typically, tasting samples, it's whatever got bottled really recently. And sometimes that can be, sometimes you have to let things swirl off a little bit.
Totally agree. So what's the vintage you have?
This is the 2016.
That's right.
You see it's in your special series here, the curated collection. So yeah, there's somebody obviously paid some close attention on this one. Really, really nicely done. And I think it's really great right now and could stand another 5 years in the bottle.
Thank you. And great description, which makes us all want to go online and read your old descriptions. So what music, you're music experts, and we'd love to touch on that. What music would you pair with this wine?
All right. It's going to take another sip. Just bear with me here.
We got him to do so. I'm so glad.
Very nice. Well, I'm a jazz trumpet player by training. That's what I came up with. And then becoming an elementary school music teacher, I kind of had to learn to play everything just enough to get kids started on what they're playing.
Congratulations for doing that. This is so cool.
That first,
you're a music teacher and a professional musician and a professional wine drinker. So that's a pretty cool life.
Yeah, it's like I say, I could complain, but no one will give me any sympathy about that. Yeah, I'm thinking probably the album that comes to mind when I drink this wine is Pat Metheny and Charlie Hayden, Beyond the Missouri Sky. Kind of acoustic guitar and bass, wide open space. But there's a little spice here too. So you could go, even into something like early Miles Davis, like late 50s Miles Davis sort of a vibe.
Wow. One of my favorite, of course. So where do we find you playing music these days?
Well, I lead a band at a church down here in Southern California. That's my main playing anymore. I used to play here in San Diego at a place called the Belly Up Tavern in a big swing band that played the Benny Goodman book and other stuff from the late 30s, early 40s kind of swing. I was a young man in the band where we had a bunch of old timers who had played that music in its heyday. They needed a young buck to come in and play the high notes on lead trumpet.
I love it. So you trumpet is your
yeah, that's my main thing, and then I play some keyboards and some percussion and a little bit of guitar. I play flute, saxophone, those kinds of things, just barely enough to get a kid started. I say, okay, here's how this works. If you're not better than me in 6 weeks, then we did something wrong.
So what gave you the passion to want to teach?
It was interesting. My children were going to kindergarten and first grade at the local public school that my wife was also a teacher at. And as you know, elementary school music education is basically left California unless there's some kind of a special situation happening. So the PTA at the school decided that they wanted to spend some of their money to get some music in the schools. And they hired someone. And my kids came home one day. I'm still working at the grading contractor at this time. And I said, "Hey, what'd you learn at school today? I heard you saw the new music teacher." And what they told me didn't impress me or my wife too much. So my wife went in to the school principal and said, "I know this guy who could maybe give you a little more bang for your buck than what we're getting here." So I went in and, showed him a couple of things that we could do. And they hired me, and it sort of took off right away from being a part-time job where I had a radio flyer wagon with a few hand drums and, things going from classroom to classroom to getting a dedicated space at the school music room.
Wow.
I had at one time, my choir at the school averaged around 120 kids. And that's second through fifth graders, which I can tell you is, if you want to get passionate about music and you want to see what passion is in music, that's the place to see it, is a group of kids like that all working together and doing some amazing things. Then I had a guitar class and a little wind band and ukuleles and percussion groups and things like that, as well as, teaching kids the general history of music and, every good bird does fly face and all of those kinds of things that are just basic things that everybody should know. But unfortunately,
that's very exciting. Congratulations. This sounds quite amazing. So maybe a few more questions. What inspires you, Rich, to keep doing this triple life, really? A teacher, an amazing trumpet player, and a wine and spirits judge, writer contributor to many things.
Well, I think all of those things are really easy to be passionate about. And I think that's when you find something like that that's going to drive you, that makes you curious, that makes you want to see what's available out there. The world of wine, I think, is such an interesting place to be, because I've learned a lot over the last 30 years, and I don't feel like I've even begun to scratch the surface of what there is to learn about the world of wine. There's always a region that I haven't discovered, or a grape variety that I've never had opportunity to taste before. And to be able to follow that and just see what's out there, and to be able to use the things that you do, whether it's playing music and getting so much joy and satisfaction out of that you want to give something back by teaching it and passing that passion on to younger students, or in the world of wine to not just enjoy a class, but when you do, to be able to share some information about that and let other people know, hey, do you have any idea what's out there for you that you should be paying some attention to? I'm always excited to share, something new that I've learned, because if I just learn it, well, that's nice, but that doesn't serve anybody. I'd rather
That's right.
give it away.
So well said. So now, Rich, we're getting to the final big question or message to the world. So the world is in front of you. You have our friends from all over the planet. What message would you give to everyone towards the end of 2021? As we all know, we are the famous Halloween, whether you're in Japan or China or France, or obviously Canada or South America. We're all going to celebrate Halloween in a few days. What's your big message?
Well, first, I should say I actually reviewed a couple of Halloween-themed wines. You can see those at winereviewonline.com. Yes, people actually do some cool little things with wine at Halloween time, just to give you a little different angle on things. But I think it's that idea of community. I mean, you think about Halloween last year during the pandemic, and basically it didn't happen. There wasn't a Halloween like we would traditionally experience it. And I think this year the door's starting to crack open a little bit. I know down here in San Diego, where our COVID numbers are really low, we're sort of feeling back to normal down here. And I know up in wine country, when I was there just a few months ago, same kind of an idea. There's still caution, but I think there's some feeling of getting back to normal. So I would say, look at what people who are judging wines and spirits and writing about them, look at what they've done during this time, so that when you get a chance to get back out there, you've got an itinerary to look at, things to go and see. I will say that visiting Buena Vista Winery should be on the top of everybody's list. You guys were kind enough to host a set of judges that I was on a panel with a few years back.
Yep.
For dinner and to see what's going on there. And just a really impressive facility, and everything that you've got going on there is
Thank you.
Great. So I think that'd be a great place to start. And then, all over California, into Oregon and Washington, even on the East Coast. I'm fortunate I'm going to get back to a little wine travel here in a few weeks and go to Sicily and experience some new things there. I've never been there before.
Wow, cool.
But to get out there and use wine as sort of a focus for travels is a great way to go. That I can vouch for 100%. Start with that as your plan, and you never know who you're going to meet, or what you're going to see or get to experience in the glass. And to get out there and in its native habitat is always a great way to go. And it's just a way to deepen your passion for life, as well as for the things that you see and get to taste along the way.
Great advice, Rich Cook, dear friends. Use wine as your adventurous partner, and your life will never be the same. I love that. Well, Rich, thank you so much. What a fun time we've had. We learned so much about wine competition and what you do. Dear friends, you'll have listed, obviously, in the summary, all Rich emails and certainly websites, and you can review his reviews and learn a lot more about wine and maybe music. And maybe one day, Rich, we could have you play the trumpet at Buena Vista.
That's a deal. Sounds
the Lounge, for that matter. Hey, thank you for being with us and being such a great inspiration and a phenomenal leader in wine and spirits, dear friends. Cheers.